Hi, so welcome to the SpunkGo webinar. Today's speaker is Tala Sheikh. She's the client director of Bruce Clay for the Middle East. It is my greatest pleasure to welcome Tala to talk about her take on the 7 secrets of social media marketing and how to be successful. Just a side note, Q&A will be done through the chat feature after the presentation, where you can ask Tala a question. SpunkGo is an all-girls global student organization where proceeds go to charity. We are currently being crowdfunded via ifundwomen.com. You will shortly receive an email about this. Any contribution you make will be highly appreciated. And with that, I will now just give the floor to Tala.
All right, awesome. Hi, guys. Thank you all for actually joining on a Friday. How I like to do these is usually I like to make it very interactive. So I do have a presentation kind of prepared with very little writing because I like to talk a lot. And if at any point you guys want to ask questions, we can keep the questions that are, additional questions to the end. But as we go, feel free to type and I'll keep an eye on the chat to make sure, I'm answering all of your questions as well. So what I'll do, let me just share screen with you. Let me know if you guys can see it. I think it should be fine. All right, awesome. All right, I'm gonna keep it like this so I can see the chat. Cool, so 7 secrets of social media. I'm gonna assume that all of you guys are here because you either are interested in social media or currently pursuing a social media career. I'm not actually quite sure what the age group is around here, but feel free to kind of let me know what you want to gain from this session so I can make sure to kind of tailor it towards you as well. So this is my take on 7 secrets of social media. It actually varies depending on what you are looking to learn. But we'll start with the first one, which is stories. Ever since, stories came about, it used to be very personal. It used to be that only personal accounts did it. So accounts like McDonald's and stuff like that actually took a step back from that to begin with. And then slowly they started capitalizing on stories. The more they realized that you actually get higher engagement on stories. When we first started doing social media, the whole stories thing was more about live coverage. So more about if you were at an event or if you were having something that's happening here and now. And it was very, very tailored toward live content. In a way, it still is, but now brands proactively create content. So as of one of the services that we actually offer within our retainer is not only creating social media posts, but also stories. So they are outright created by either designers or mobile apps or whatever it may be, depending on the account. But now we actually use a lot of the features that are available on stories that help us capture data. You guys all know the poll options. So basically understanding if your client, let's say my client is, I don't know, iPhone, Apple. So they want to learn what people would rather see on their social media. You can easily do a poll between 2 phones, maybe the black and the gold, and ask people which color do they prefer. What that helps you do is, first of all, you're engaging the audience, but secondly, you're collecting data. So a little market research that you can do for yourself. And by understanding what your audience likes to see, so if I give 50% on gold, then I know they prefer seeing a gold mobile over a black mobile, which means in my creatives, when I feature them on my page moving forward, I'll keep that in mind and make sure that I deliver that to the audience since that's what they're looking for. I don't know how to keep the chat here. All right, cool. If you have no audio, you guys can hear me, right? I think only Othman is struggling with the sound. Can you guys confirm if you can hear me? Okay, perfect. Othman, if you want, you can, I think, exit and come back on. That might help you. All right, cool. Other features such as, the meter, getting to understand what your audience, feel towards your creatives, questions. So you can do a lot of awareness and education on your stories by adding the questions feature, which has the right and wrong answer. That way you kind of educate your followers on your brand without being too, oh, this is what we do, this is who we are. The whole point of social media is to be as fun and as young and as relatable to your audience as possible. And we try to do that with stories mainly, because we feel that people are a lot more likely to engage with you on a story than they are on a post. And that's just consumer behavior in general. So we make sure to include in our strategy a whole stories approach that is very different from what we actually create on the actual channel itself. We actually have a lot of clients that are very, maybe corporate is not the right word, but corporate with a more professional tone of voice. And they're very picky about what they put on their feed, but they allow us that freedom to do a lot of fun and creative stuff on their feed, which allows us to kind of show a different side to the brand and make it a bit lighter and a bit more fun. Which we do a lot of, especially for government entities, which do not have the freedom to do as much fun content as they would like on their actual timeline. That's pretty much for stories. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them, but definitely keep that as part of your strategy. Don't keep it to only live events and just here and now, but also make sure that you guys capitalize on capturing data from it as well. I'll move on to the second secret or tip, I would call them, featuring people. So one of the things that we realized, I think very early on, but it's being more emphasized now, and brands are kind of getting the hint now and kind of implementing it a bit more. Featuring people on your channels is so important. Let me just do this. I don't know if you guys can see it. Oh, it's not even playing. Why isn't it playing? Let me reload the screen. Cool. So the reason why people like to see people is they feel like they relate to them, especially if a person looks like you. One of the things that we do, and we live in a very multicultural area. So in Dubai, you've got a lot of Asians, a lot of expats, a lot of locals, a lot of Western expats. So what you need to make sure is that you're featuring as many different types of nationalities as you can to keep being relatable to your the people that are actually following you. One of the things that we saw when we did a lot of A/B testing, so we create the same copywriting, but we do two different creatives and we see which one people react to the best. One would feature a cartoon or a person that's animated, and the other would feature real people. And it's almost always, I would say 80 to 89% real people perform better. The problem with why brands don't do that a lot is because it's very costly to kind of feature, to go and shoot and take real videography of real people, making sure that you're not focusing on one type of whether it be gender or race or whatever it may be. So making sure that you're creating inclusive content, that you're actually going out there and shooting and creating videos can be quite costly for brands. So what they prefer to do is either capitalize on a certain brand representative in an animated form, or some people have superheroes or whatever it may be that they position themselves behind. What we've recently seen is that people can relate a lot more to real people, and it builds that emotional connection. We talk a lot about creating emotional content on social media, and by emotional, it doesn't mean sad, it means emotion, any sort of emotion. Whether it be, making someone laugh, whether it makes them think, whether it may be makes them a little bit sad or missing home. So we do a lot of things for like Mother's Day, where we actually feature that relationship between a mother and a child, whether it be older or younger, and whether it be right here or long distance or over Zoom, before Zoom was a pandemic problem. But before that, Skype was a big solution for people who, live abroad from their family. So capitalizing on these moments and putting them in front of the user is very important. And we see a lot of great results from featuring real stories and real people, and having them tell their story as well. Moving on to the types of content. So, for the longest period of time, we've always said focus on video. Video is the best performing content. Video gets you the best results. Video gets you the best engagement. And don't get me wrong, it is true. Video is definitely one of the best performing types of content. But recently, there has been a lot of stats that show that actually carousels perform better. And not only that, but people are more likely to spend more time on your post if it is a carousel. So funny enough, it's actually 7 or more carousels that people tend to engage with the most, which you would think as a user that I would be bored after the first few swipes. But apparently stats show otherwise. We have tested this out in our own agency, and it doesn't apply to all of our accounts. It applies to 70% of them. So it's not only the type of post, but also the type of content that you put on that post. If your post is just, a cover photo with fact and fact and fact and fact, it may not be as engaging as one that's, more engaging and asks a question. Then maybe, we do a lot of like hidden, not like a scavenger hunt, but like hidden things in the carousel, and how many can you spot, like product placement or types of food or whatever it may be. In that sense, it's a lot more engaging. So people are a lot more likely to stay on your page than they are to kind of just scroll down. If it's just a long form copy form of text, people usually would go off. So it's not, it's not just as simple as carousel will get you the best engagement. It also has to do with what are you actually putting on that carousel. I think it's very important to diversify your content. So when we say carousel is important, carousel is very important, but so is video, so is static. Using different types of content is very important because each one gets you a different form of engagement. For videos, you only get video views and the likes are usually low, but the video views are high. So if you have to report on KPIs and how do you perform, month on month to your client or for yourselves, you get to see how one of your KPIs would be engagement, but engagement is divided into video views, into likes, comments, shares. So when you have a static post, you don't get video views, but if you have a video views, your likes are low. So you need to have a static post to make sure your likes are high. You have to have video views to make sure that your video views are high. And then maybe carousels, because they do tend to get the most comments, then that's more for comments. So making sure that your content is diversified and that you have a different type of content for throughout the week, throughout the month is very important, especially when it comes to reporting at the end of the month and you have to show progress to your client, and you're trying to show growth, and growth is from every aspect. So making sure there's a healthy balance between different types of posts is very important. And when you get a piece of content, you have to evaluate, how would this post perform the best? Does it, can the story be told through a static? And if it's a story, usually it cannot be told through a static. If it's a story that needs to be told in video, is it long form video? Is it short form video? It's very important to kind of understand the message of your content and then analyzing how it would perform best and then putting that into a creative. We have account managers that brief the designers based on what they think would bring out the story to life the most. So if they feel like, a video is the best, they'll tell the designer, can you put it in a video? If they feel a GIF is best, they'll tell them to put them in GIF. So when we say carousel is the best, it is the best performing. It's the best in terms of stats, but it also situational and depends on what type of content you're actually portraying. In terms of now, when we talk about social media, there's several aspects to it. There's the one where you have the post, which is the creative, so the image or the video or the carousel, wherever it may be. You have the copywriting, which is, what you actually write. Usually it's bilingual, English and Arabic. And then there is the time of day that you post, the day that you post it on, and so on. The most important thing to understand when you are copywriting, and whether you do that yourself or whether you have a copywriter, when you manage an account, you need to make sure that you're talking to the user. You are not selling the product. And I think one of the biggest issues that we have in this region specifically, and I think that's one of the reasons why we tend to win a lot of accounts, is we go into the client and say, listen, right now you are selling your products and your entire page is all about making a sale. So it's like sell, 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 price, price, price. And there's no communication. And if I wanted the price, I can just, either be in store or on the website. And that's not why people follow you on social media. So we go in and say, you know what, you're selling a product, you need to sell the solution to the problem that people have. So rather than just sitting there and talking about the product and trying to tell people, come buy me, we create the need without actually saying it. So we talk about the people's, experience with the product, how it would make them feel. So for example, McDonald's is one of our clients. So McDonald's Saudi, not UAE, but McDonald's is one of our clients. And for them, we wouldn't say, here's the fries at, I don't know, 9 dirhams. We don't talk like that, or get it now before it runs out. We don't use these terms that are very sales driven. What we focus on more is like quench your thirst, like make them feel the emotion that product can do. And the way we use it is just on very emotional content that gets you to feel that certain way. And then you feel like, okay, actually I am thirsty, so let me order some food. But we never go out and say order now, or, this is the best offer you can get and stuff like that. We do have some brands, obviously, that no matter how much we tell them, that's their approach, and, they are very sales driven. And it's unfortunate because, that's not the point of social media, but, there's only so much you can do sometimes. But for the majority of our clients, we have the leniency of creating content, and we make sure that our content pillars have a healthy mix between sales driven, which is talking about the product and how they will benefit from it and so on, and engagement posts. We do a lot of fun posts that are, spot the difference and stuff like that. But most importantly, we make sure that we do not at any point make the follower feel like we're trying to sell to them. Instead, we make them feel like we are the solution to their problem without actually saying that we are. And I think that takes a bit of time to try to get that tone of voice right. And it does take us a few tries, to be completely honest. Some accounts are easier than others. Some of them are a bit more tricky. But most importantly, we try to make it more about the follower than it is about us. And it's all about how we're going to make their life easier and making them see the solutions and making them feel like they're part of this little community that we built for them online. Most importantly, putting our buyers first, and then making sure that we answer their questions and build that platform for them to learn about the products that they're buying. But again, never say, like, how I always say when I go onto a client that I'm trying to win, I'll go on their channel and I'll be like, this looks like a catalog, like a product catalog, and it's all like price. And no one needs to see that. Like, if I saw that on your newsfeed, I would unfollow, because that's not what I'm here to see. So make sure that you guys talk to your audience like you would want to be talked to. All right, now this is where we talk about engagement. Engagement is, I believe, the most important pillar in content creation, whether it be on any platform. I don't care if it's LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a lot more corporate and a lot more B2B. I still think that there is a way where you can engage the audience at different levels. When we talk about engagement, we talk about a lot of people think engagement is just a comment or a like, and it's not about that. It's about making your followers feel like they're part of that community that you're building for them. So how do you do that? We do it very simply. We have a page called, which we just won, a couple of months ago, called EPCO Lubricants. EPCO Lubricants is a car oil, which is not the most fun product to talk about. It is not the most engaging product, and it's very, very hard to try to sell it in a fun way. However, the client was super lenient. There are still some very, I would say, sales-driven posts that we have to do every once in a while, but what they've ultimately allowed us to do is create a lot of fun content. We've done like cars with masks on them. We've done, a car drinking water out of ice, so cooling the system down. And honestly speaking, to be able to turn such a, I want to say hard product, but also, to be completely transparent, a boring product. And they know it's a boring product, because how can you position oil lubricant as a fun product? It's really hard. But we wanted to know that we could do that. So we showed them a few examples of how we wanted to do it. It was more cartoony, obviously, than, a bottle of car lubricant can't be that fun. So we've turned it into a cartoon. We've done a lot of fun creatives, and for them, their objective is awareness, because you know what, when you go to the petrol station, there is only Enoch products. So whether you're buying EPCO or Caltex or whatever, they're all there themselves. They own all of them. So for us, it's not about the objective is not sales. So it makes it a lot easier for us to work on such a brand, because they will allow us the leniency to make it as fun and as engaging as possible. And the whole idea behind engaging the audience is that you become top of mind. So sometimes, you know, you don't, as a brand, not everything is about conversion. What happens is you will never convert someone from the first time they see you. But if I see, let's say, an oil brand, so usually oil, you just go to the co-op and you pick the cheapest one. It's not the most, you know, strong category when it comes to brand names. But what happens is, if you've seen a post on social media that captured your attention, you may not realize it at that time, but the next time you go to the co-op, you'll be like, oh, I remember seeing this, so you would grab it. So sometimes the conversion is not immediate. It actually takes time before you make that purchase, and usually it's just a subconscious decision that you make without even realizing. So you don't even realize that you're picking that product because we have triggered you through our communication, and that happens very organically. You would find yourself, you know, I don't know if I can't tell, you know, so there are some girls here, and you know, as girls we see some makeup brands and we're like, oh my god, that looks so pretty. You may not buy it then, but the next time we go to a Sephora or whatever, you'd be like, oh, I'll try it. And then when you try it, you know, you are more inclined to buy it than a random brand. And this is what kind of the whole point of social media is. Social media is not just about selling, and it's not just, you know, the typical marketing of just spreading awareness. It also does lead to conversion, but that doesn't usually work from the first initial, you know, contact with the follower. That usually takes a few tries. We usually say, I don't know how technical you guys want me to get, but we usually work on a 3-hit frequency. So usually all consumers work the same way. So the first time you see an ad, you don't relate to it, you don't care. It just goes right up above your head. The second time you see your ad, you're like, oh, I've seen this before. Okay, so it starts kind of ringing a bell, and you're more likely to kind of keep it as top of mind. At this point, you're like, okay, I've seen this twice. The third time you'll take an action. So we consider this a conversion. A conversion does not mean a sale. A conversion means I'll get you to follow me, I'll get you to like me or share my post, or even, you know, how you share it, inbox to your sister or tagging your sister or whatever. So anything that we consider a conversion is once you interact with us at any given point. So in general, social media works on a 3-hit frequency. It works the best. You can target people so that they see the same post 5 times, but usually 3 performs best. And just because if you actually, it'll be funny because now after you get off this call and you'll start thinking about this, the next ad you see, you'll focus on more. And you will realize slowly that actually, yes, you do not convert from the first time, but after a few times, you'll start to actually engage with the post or the brand, or it becomes a brand that you know. So the next time you go to the supermarket, you kind of notice it, even if you hadn't before. Moving on to, I don't know, this is 6th tip, I think. Yes. Arabic content. Now, I'm guessing everyone is located in Dubai, but I don't actually know. Are you guys located in Dubai? Let me know. Or UAE? Just to make my life easier, because, okay, perfect. All right, thanks guys. Oh, and you're actually listening, cute. Okay, so Arabic content is super important. You know, we talk about one of the what we call a quick fix is adding Arabic content to any account that we win. So if there's an account right now that, you know, we are trying to win, we're just like, you are missing out on a huge opportunity by capitalizing on the Arabic language. Although everyone in the UAE can, I would say the majority is bilingual. All right, cool guys. So if you are in this region, again, whatever region you're from, you can just localize it to your country. But the idea is that English, we're all English speakers, so we can all speak English, but in the end, the country that you're in, the language of that country it dominates on social media. So even though I'm Arab and I speak English, and I read in English, but there is that sense of, you know, especially with the locals, where they feel a sense of pride when it comes to their language. So when you write, whether it be Hindi or Arabic or English or whatever, English is great and English everyone can understand, but making sure that you actually speak the local language is very important. And how we usually do it, you have a separate social media account to have Arabic posts. Cool. All right. So you have 2 different pages. One is English, one is Arabic. just to understand how you guys do it. Because actually, so what we do is, first of all, captions should be short. It's very important that your captions are not too long because no one's even reading that much. So what we do is we create it depending on the account. If the account is an English speaking account, then we'll do English first and then Arabic second. No, you definitely don't. You don't need to separate it. So what happens is you'll create the post and then underneath it, you'll write in English, and then right underneath you'll write in Arabic. Now, depending on what the account is, for example, Arabic speaking like government entities in the UAE have to speak Arabic first because they pride themselves. They're the representative of the nation. So what they do is for them, we put the Arabic on top and the English at the bottom. Even if it's a photo, so you know how we do carousel. So the first carousel would be an Arabic speaking carousel. The second one when you swipe is the English one. That's for like government entities. But for our other accounts that are not government entities, we always put the cover photo being either English first and then swipe Arabic, or sometimes we do the creative that has English and Arabic simultaneously if it's little text. If it's too much text, definitely do two separate photos and then do a carousel. Always keep your text short. People do not want to read essays. I think it's very important that social media just highlights the short, quick, content. It's called snack content. Snack content is basically less than 10 seconds. And the whole idea behind that is that, unfortunately, the younger and younger generation has the shorter and shorter concentration span. So they only kind of focus for a maximum of 10 seconds. So if you can capture them within the first 3 seconds, you're more likely to kind of get them to finish what they're watching. And that's why we slowly move away from kind of these long videos and more towards these quick videos. However, there is a contradicting kind of stats that go with, people also love to watch vlogs and they love to go on YouTube and watch these long form videos. So those have their audiences, but we're talking about social media in terms of like Facebook and Instagram, then definitely short and to the point kind of snippets. And then for YouTube, you can have a more a longer kind of long form kind of content where people can either sit there and watch it or not. It's up to them. But once you're on YouTube, you tend to have a much more patience to watch more content. Lastly, in terms of big tip is build a community. Now, when we talk about brands and copywriting and creatives and all that, we always talk about what content is going on the page. But that once that's done, so once you schedule the post, once it's published, you can't kind of sit back and relax. What happens is people start engaging with you. Hopefully, if your post is good, the idea is that you've created the content. If you follow the whole engage, then you should have engaging content. And that means engaging content means get prepared because people are going to engage with you. It's so important that you pay very close attention to what people are saying. It's so important to understand first of all, how they're interpreting your data, how they feel about it, what kind of questions they ask. Is it positive or negative? If it's negative, why is it negative? If it's positive, why is it positive? So usually what we try to do is kind of do social listening and understanding how people are perceiving our content. And that's usually very easy to see from the comments. Not only that, so first of all, as any brand, you have the kind of the basic tone of voice that goes in your content, and then you have your the content, the tone of voice that you reply with. Now, your content when you are posting the post can be very corporate. If your government has to be very politically correct and very professional sounding. And then when we reply, we actually reply like a person. We reply like a person. It's so important. Like, it's as simple as that. So when you're a brand, they need to know that there's a person behind the brand, so they don't feel like they're talking to like a robot. Automated messages are the worst. I'm very anti copy paste replies. A lot of our clients have always had that system, which is basically if someone asks this, you copy paste that, and if someone asks this, you copy paste this. And that's the first thing we move away from. We're like, you know what, every single person that comments needs to have a customized, personalized message, so they feel like they are being heard, especially when someone is not very happy. Dealing with negative feedback is so, it's normal. It's completely normal to have negative feedback for your content or your experience. Most of the time, it's not even about your social media content. It's more about an experience that someone had with either your product or your service. And then what they come and do is, oh, I went to your branch in this mall and I had such a bad experience with some guy's name. And there's two ways you can go about this. You can send the automated reply, which is, oh, dear, Ahmad, we're so sorry you went through this. Please share your contact details and we'll get back to you ASAP. Which is honestly, I mean, this is standard performance, and a lot of companies have that in place, including some of ours, some of our clients. But we always say that's just gonna aggravate the person who's already kind of very angry. So instead of doing that, we're like, oh, like we reply in a much more relatable tone of voice, saying, hi Ahmad, we're so sorry you went through this. Could you please, we're definitely going to sort this out for you. Please share your phone number. It's just like those small messages that you write that makes the person who's commenting that was super angry kind of calm down a little bit, so that by the time he reaches someone calls him from our side or customer support or whoever it may be, they are not as at that angry level. And what happens is people can also see that communication. So they'll see that we've had a negative kind of comment, and they'll see how we responded to it. And that's also very important. A lot of brands choose to delete those. And I'm a big believer that you should never delete negative content unless it's offensive or politically incorrect or racial, or, there's a reason why it should be deleted. If someone is saying your product is bad, then we need to know why. So it's important that you create that conversation, and it's important that you don't only discuss it in your DMs where no one can see it. It's important to have that conversation on your comment section, so that the people who can also see that explanation that we kind of have from our end. So they don't just see one side of the conversation, they see the full thing along with the explanation. We see that, I would say 60 to 70%, maybe a bit more, angry customers can be converted to loyal customers if treated correctly. Some people we call they're just a problematic follower. So they're just there to cause problems. They're not there to kind of give positive or negative criticism. They're just there to kind of cause problems. And those, no matter what you do, no matter how you talk to them, no matter what you say to them, this will never turn into a positive follower. And one of the things is, with a bit of time, you get to learn what type of follower that comment is coming from. You can see when it's genuine concern and it's genuinely someone who's been upset. And then, sorry, people are saying, I'll read your questions in a second. But usually you can see that whether people can convert into loyal customers or not, purely based on how they engage with you in the comment section. And you can easily spot when someone is just genuinely concerned and when they're actually just there to cause problems. Let me read your questions, guys. I wanted to know where you think I can get started and get some experience. So it's very easy. Again, are you located in Dubai? So someone who's asking me for experience. Okay, perfect. So what we do is as agencies, there's always opportunity for internships. I would say it's great that you are interested in social media. At least you know what you wanted to get into. When I was in university, I had no idea what kind of field I wanted to get into when I graduated. So I did a lot of internships while I was doing university until I figured out what I wanted to do. And even then, I got into market research for a year and a half before I actually kind of got out of that field and went into social media. But what you need to do is kind of apply for internships. If you kind of Google agencies in Dubai, you can actually go to their social media channels and ask them if they have internships. Sometimes they'll write it on LinkedIn. Sometimes they won't. So just being proactive about it. And, we get a lot of messages on the company's page where people are asking us, can I submit my CV? Can I do you have internships? And internships, because it's an internship, we're a lot more likely to kind of say, sure, we'll share knowledge. You'll come in for like 3 months usually, and it's part-time, so you can come in for a few hours a day. Again, the pandemic is a bit of a different situation, but we're still taking on internships and stuff like that. So feel free to reach out to either my agency or any other agency that you see, and kind of let us know that you do want to take part of an internship, and that's the best way to get started, I think. Okay, so when it comes to post frequency, what should be the ideal number so that we don't overdo it or irritate the target audience with too much posts? That's a very good question. So with content, it depends who your customer is. Someone like usually we always recommend alternate day posting. So it's 15 posts, one day yes, one day no, and so on. It comes down to who is your client and what are you talking about. The only thing that kind of people don't get bored of is baby pictures. So if you have, you know, baby clothes or baby food or anything that features babies, apparently for whatever reason, people don't mind seeing a lot of that. And food. So food and babies are kind of the one-off that kind of have their own numbers where you can actually push a bit more content with them and people will not unfollow. But I would say definitely stick to 15 posts a month, alternate day. If you're in the financial industry or if you're insurance or if you're banking, something that is not as fun, we would recommend 2 to 3 times a week. And then again, the best thing with social media is that you can always test and learn. So we always test things out. So we try like alternate days and then we might try 3 days in a row and then see which one had the best engagement and based on that build our own pattern. There is always each account has their own performance and each account has their own type of audience, and what applies for one does not necessarily apply for all, but usually your best bet, your safest bet is alternate days. What is the best time to post, weekday or weekend and morning or evening? So actually this also depends on what type of account you are actually managing. The cool thing about your question is that you don't have to guess, neither do I. There is actual tools. So even if you go on Instagram, if you have a business account, they'll show you what time your audience is most active on. So they'll show you what day and then what time of day they're most active. And ideally, you want to be as proactive as it is recommended. So if it tells you Tuesday 5 p.m. is the best time, then post on Tuesday 5 p.m. But let's say you have a post that's for a restaurant that's about breakfast. You can't post it at 5 p.m. So it doesn't matter. So it's not always that you have to post at that exact moment. It has to make sense. If you're talking about breakfast, it needs to go early in the morning. Even if you know for a fact that 5 p.m. is the best performing time, you still have to post it in the morning because it has to make sense. What you talk about has to make sense at also what time of day you're posting. Again, a lot of like clothes and stuff like that don't really matter. But when we're talking about meals and types of meals, it's important to kind of post it at the right time of day. Does LinkedIn have the same feature? Yes, and you have Socialbakers. So Socialbakers is a tool. It's not just Socialbakers or Sprout. There's a bunch of other social media tools, but they all have the feature of letting you know what time your audience are the most active. So you'll be able to see days, times, and so on. Does Facebook have? Yes, Facebook have. Every single platform has very similar manners. When you talk about Socialbakers, it's a social listening tool which helps you kind of do reporting and social listening. They have really cool content which helps you kind of grade your posts. So they also have like this, if you post something, they'll grade it A, B, C, or D. And if it's an A or a B, it means it's a good post. And if you want to boost it, you can. And if it's a C and a D, ideally, it will not perform as well. So usually we also listen to that. So it's not just as simple as what time of day and what type of content, sorry, what day and what time of day, but also what type of grading we get. So we also listen to that as well. Oh, awesome. Who do you have from Socialbakers as a speaker? They're good. So Socialbakers is one of the I would say best tools and easiest tools to use, and definitely better for like entry level. There are more technical reporting tools which are more on an enterprise level, but Socialbakers would be one of the easiest ones to get to start into, and they actually have really good data and AI that captures really well in terms of data. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now because I'd rather kind of, thank you first of all, but I'm gonna go into like questions so that I can kind of see what you guys are doing. All right, cool. Any other questions?
If there aren't any questions, I've actually received a few questions myself.
Awesome.
So the first one would be, do you think social media marketing is expensive in a sense, like if someone doesn't have a large budget, could they even think about social media marketing?
Yes and no. So you should always consider doing social media. I'll tell you one thing. I'm Syrian, and in Syria you cannot do boosting. It's not allowed. You can't do paid media. So it's purely organic. And there are brands that are they're excelling. They're doing so well. So it shows that you can theoretically perform really well even without paid media. But the problem with, again, it's a matter of how Facebook is structuring their algorithms, and it is making it harder and harder for brands to be seen, because an organic post on Facebook maybe has 200 to 300 reach depending on how many followers you have, but it's less than 1% reach, 2% if you're lucky. So you do have to boost it to put it in front of people. Now with Instagram, it's a bit different. Instagram still has the hashtag feature, still has that opportunity for us to say tag a friend and get someone to win something. So there are little tactics that you can use that make it a lot easier for Instagram to kind of get you that reach and that engagement that you're getting even without paid media. However, we always recommend some sort of budget. Now the budget can be anything from 1,000 dirhams to 100,000 to 1 million. Honestly, it varies depending on whether you are an independent startup or whether you're a McDonald's, for example. And our clients vary. So we have restaurants that have smaller budgets, and we have McDonald's, which is you can never compete with someone like that. But ultimately, as long as you have consistent budgets month on month, you'll be able to grow on a consistent level, whether it be a small budget or a big budget. Do you want me to take that one more question? Where do you think someone can learn more about social media marketing, and how we can go about it? I think so. I'll tell you one thing. When I first started in social media wasn't this big thing that it was. The algorithms were a lot easier, so we could get a lot more reach and a lot more growth on an organic manner. Paid wasn't even that big of a thing as it is now. I learned most of my thing through Google, to be completely honest. At that time, I was the first social media exec hired at the agency. We had one social media account, and I was kind of winging it, as they say. I would say I winged it for quite a big chunk of my career with just the help of Google and YouTube. So anytime I wanted to learn something, I would just YouTube it. And usually I would say 90% of the time you can find your answer there. If not, I would go and ask someone who had more experience than me. And feel free to reach out to people, even on LinkedIn. Like if you have a question that you want answered, you can reach out to any professional and they'll be happy to help you out. And kind of answer it for you or give you guidance or give you the recommendations. We don't always know best. What's worked for us does not necessarily work for you. What's worked for, some of our brands may not work for your brand. It's all very, very, subjective. And that's the cool thing about social media. It's whatever works for you does not necessarily work for everyone else. It's all about testing and learning and treating every account as their own, as a new project, as a new, and actually for me, I love when we get new accounts because it makes us exciting to kind of sit and learn all over. Some of our accounts that we've had have been with us for 5 years or 4 years and so on. So we kind of know them inside out, and it makes it a lot more fun to kind of work on a new account and get to learn from the beginning. And I still Google until today some stuff. If a client asks me a question on, a recommendation, there are ones that I would know off the top of my head that I believe in. And then there are ones that I'm like, actually, I don't know. Let me check stats and get back to you, because in the end, it's not just about me and my experience. It's also what works for the world, what works for this region. So I would say definitely Google. There's Harvard Business School. They share a lot of classes on social media. YouTube and people. People are kind of the best bet. Tell me. Welcome.
All right, so thank you, Tala, for that great session, and to the audience too. If anyone needs any more details or they want to know how to participate in SpunkGo, please visit our website. You'll automatically be invited for future webinars. So thank you and good evening.
Thank you, guys. See you. You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Bye.